welcome at UU. Thank you. All are welcome. Welcome. Come on in. All are welcome at UU. And you and you. Hi. So glad you're here today. Come on in. It's Choir Sunday. The choir is ready to sing to you.
Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fayetteville. My name is Natalie Emmons, and I serve this fellowship as board treasurer and co-lead of our Nature and Pagan Spirituality group, Web of Life. Unitarian Universalism is a religious tradition that values freedom in religious thought and journey. We value our connections to each other, to all of life, and to the universe of which we are a part. We work toward love, justice, and hope as we journey together in community. And we welcome you, whoever you are, at this moment, and wherever you are in your spiritual journey. For those of you visiting us for the first time in person, you'll find a visitor information card in the seat back in front of you. And you can fill that if you'd like to get more information about what we do and get on our email list, you can fill out this card and drop it into the offertory basket later in the service. Our friends on Facebook can connect with us by checking out our website, uufayetteville.org. And if you have a joy or concern today that you'd like to share with leadership, you are welcome to fill out a yellow card. And you can also drop that into the offertory basket later in the service. If you need hearing assistance, our AV tech David can help you with that in the back. And Seven Hills, we are still collecting hydration packets for Seven Hills. There's some examples down here below that you can see. And if you purchase those and bring them to the fellowship, we will get those over to Seven Hills Homeless Shelter to help them. And this is specifically what they're asking for as we go into the warmer months of the year. Children and the sounds they make are always welcome in our service. However, if they or you need a break, there are seats in our foyer where you can continue to listen to the service, and we have a fully staffed nursery downstairs. We ask you to silence your phones and devices as we enter into our service and the sacred time together today. And it is my honor and privilege to introduce our speaker today, Fort Smith native Megan Turner Chernia. Megan and I met when we were both psychology students at the University of Arkansas. When I started the PhD program in Cognition and Culture at Queen's University Belfast in 2007, I was delighted to reconnect with Megan during her study abroad semester at Queen's. Megan and I quickly buddied up as two Arkansans exploring the world and, more importantly, new ideas. We learned about the history of Belfast as a place still recovering from decades of sectarian conflict and the important role the Clintons played in negotiating the Good Friday Agreement. We learned about the power of building community, even amongst small groups of expats who took a chance to study and live abroad. After Megan returned to the States, we kept in touch. Megan has a natural gift for making and maintaining friendships wherever she goes. When she made the decision to immigrate to Israel in 2012, cowboy boots on her feet and Chinese pug in her arms, on a backpack actually, a group of us living in Boston and Princeton traveled to New York City to see her off. Once in Israel, Megan went straight to the Negev desert town of Beersheba, finding a warm place full of Southern hospitality to build her new Israeli life. Her upbringing in the Reformed Jewish community in Fort Smith was integral to her retaining her Jewish identity and to her making the move to Israel. In Beersheba, she began her Master's of Social Work at Ben Gurion University of the Negev, where she wrote her thesis on the role of grief and bereavement in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and how it should inform the field of social work in that region. She worked as a community social worker for the city of Beersheba for 5 years, helping new immigrants to find their way in a new country, a new language, and a new culture. Megan then joined the NGO Eretz-Ir, which focuses on community building and social entrepreneurship in the periphery areas of Israel. In this role, Megan feels she is making great strides toward making these areas of Israel stronger for all residents, regardless of race, religion, age, gender, or affiliation. She married the love of her life, Yagal, a Beersheba boy, just over 2 years ago, and together they live in the old city of Beersheba with their 2 rescue dogs, Trip and Ninja. Before I turn it over, I want to preface our service by saying that Megan is here today as a peacenik and Israeli citizen working to do good in an area of the world marred by conflict. She is here to speak about hope and community building and not about politics. So thank you all.
So good morning, everyone. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to connect with you. And I've just been so inspired in the 30 minutes that I've been here by just how welcoming you all are. So thank you so much for that. My opening words are going to be a poem that I'm going to read part of in Hebrew and then the translation, and I'll explain to you, I think, why I chose this poem. It's called Tayarim from Yehuda Amichai. Tayarim means tourists. So here it is in Hebrew, part of it. פעם ישבתי על מדרגות ליד שער במצוגת דוד, את 2 הסלים הכבדים ששמתי לידי. עמדה שם קבוצת תיירים סביב המדריך, ושימשתי להם נקודת ציון. אתם רואים את האיש הזה עם הסלים? קצת ימינה מראשו נמצאת קשת מן התקופה הרומנית. קצת ימינה מראשו. אבל הוא זז. אמרתי בליבי, הגאולה תבוא רק אם יגידו להם, אתם רואים שם את הקשת מן התקופה הרומנית? לא חשוב, אבל לידה, קצת שמאלה ולמטה ממנה, יושב אדם שקנה פירות וירקות לביתו. This is the translation of the full poem. Visits of condolence is all we get from them. They squat at the Holocaust Memorial, they put on grave faces at the Wailing Wall, and they laugh behind heavy curtains in their hotels. They have their pictures taken together with our famous dead, at Rachel's tomb and Herzl's tomb, and on Ammunition Hill. They weep over our sweet boys and lust after our tough girls and hang up their underwear to dry quickly in cool blue bathrooms. Once I sat on the steps by a gate of David's tower, and I placed my 2 heavy baskets at my side. A group of tourists was standing around their guide, and I became their target marker. You see that man with the baskets? Just right of his head, there's an arch from the Roman period. Just right of his head. But he's moving. He's moving. I said to myself, redemption will come only if their guide tells them, you see that arch from the Roman period? It's not important. But next to it, left and down a bit, there sits a man who bought fruit and vegetables for his family. And the reason I bring this poem, aside from I worked in the tourism field for a while too, and this was a beautiful way that we tried to encourage tourists to come to Israel and to see beyond the landmarks. I want to also encourage all of us in these really troubling times to not look at what's going on, not even just in Israel and Palestine, but all over the world, not as tourists, but that we're able to look at the people who are behind each of those stories and remember humanity. And I was reading actually just some of the things about UUFF here, and I said, wow, you guys are speaking my language, so this is great. And with that, I'll be done for now.
Good morning. Thank you, Megan. It's a very powerful opening. Please join me in our chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of this community, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and truth, and to help one another. Thus do we covenant together. Thank you.
Please join the choir as we sing Shabbat Shalom. Please rise if you are able and willing. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat is Sabbath or Saturday in the Jewish culture. And Shalom is hello, goodbye, and peace. So peaceful Sabbath. Let's sing number 214.
Thank you. That was invigorating. All right. Today's story for all ages is called The Circles Around Us, and the author is Brad Montague. Tressa, you want me to do it? Yeah. We begin by drawing a circle on the ground along each shoe. A safe little place for just one person, nobody in this circle but you. You could keep that circle closed to everyone but yourself, but that would be like a library with just one book on the shelf. So let's draw a bigger circle for you and your family to share. Now you can see what all can happen in a circle full of care. It becomes a happier circle as more loved ones come to stay. And wouldn't it be even better if all our friends could come and play? So you stretch and draw your circle. That's a good word, stretch. Even bigger than it's been, and let a few more people know they're welcome to come in the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there is a difference we can make and a love we can all show. Yet, there are still so many outside the circle who are different in all they do. Though it feels slightly uncomfortable, we draw a bigger circle for them too. It doesn't mean the circle is easy. It can get harder the more we share. But wonderful things can happen when love is known and felt everywhere. That says Friendship Donuts in case you can't read. As time passes, our eyes open, we see others we really care for, and that's when we ask ourselves, well, what's this circle really there for? So let us create bigger circles all around us for the rest of our days. Let our caring ripple out in a million little ways. Yeah. In the circles all around us, everywhere that we all go, there's a difference we can make and a love we can all show. As our circles grow, and we watch them wonder-eyed. Remember, the first circle started with just the love you held inside. Thank you.
So now it's time for the offering. The important work of this fellowship is possible because of your generous contributions of time, talent, and treasure. Every contribution of every size is helpful and greatly appreciated. As we pass the offering baskets, we invite you to give what you can to help foster the congregation's mission. If you prefer, you may give through our website, uufayetteville.org, or through texting the code on the screen, or by mailing checks to our office. We are not picky how you want to give. Will the host please come forward and pass the offering baskets, and you can also drop your welcome and joys and concerns cards in the baskets at this time.
The choir is going to sing the Ose Shalom version by Debbie Friedman. The translation, may the one who makes peace in the high places make peace over us and over all of humanity, as together we sing Amen.
V'meru amen, and we'll say amen. So that was beautiful. Thank you so, so much. I have chills. Incredible. All right. Let's make sure I go the right way, because in Hebrew, I normally go the other way. So I just have to check. I think I've gone the wrong direction. Am I correct? Hold on just a second. Excuse me. Thank you. There we go. Hey. So I use this button now. And that's also something that's I'm jet lagged, and like my brain is doing Hebrew and English and all this stuff. Anyway, so if I get stuck and kind of stare at you a little bit, please have grace upon me. Appreciate it. So thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to come and talk to you about myself, about the work that we do to bring a little bit of good news, I think, out of a part of the world that has so much bad news coming out of it. There are still good people doing good things, so let's try to focus on that as much as possible. Someone asked me earlier too, what does Eretz-Ir mean? So I'll tell you guys that first before I really get started. Eretz means land, or it can also, if you stretch it a little bit, it means people, like the people of Israel or the Jewish people. And Ir means city. And so the majority of our work is trying to connect people who live in cities, in the periphery areas of Israel, to other people around them, to build communities, to help them not feel so alone. It's not like a kibbutz where you're living and it's just ingrained. That's why you moved into a place like that. Cities in Israel can be a little bit lonely, so we're trying to infuse ideas of community like you have here to make cities stronger and better places for people to live, because cities that have people like you are much better and much more beneficial to everyone around them. So just a tiny bit more about me, just because it's funny. But Natalie really said everything. You need to know about the Chinese pug and the cowboy boots and everything. Because how not? So, let me tell you that story. So growing up in Fort Smith, Arkansas as a Jew was not, it was pleasant. I had a wonderful time. My community, I'll use that word a lot today, was the backbone of building my identity, giving me significance. But there are not a lot of Jews in Arkansas. And you meet other Jews from other places and they're like, where is that? So while I was I love the community that I grew up in, and I'm so thankful for them. But again, other people have a hard time digesting it. I made aliyah, which means to immigrate, and we say to make aliyah in the same, to make aliyah means to go up. So you also say the same thing whenever you're going to the Torah. Like, so if at a Jewish synagogue they're pulling the Torah out to read from it, you're going up to the Torah. You're being lifted up. You're being uplifted. Same, by the way, when you're going to Jerusalem. You say you're going up to Jerusalem. So just another little piece of Hebrew to throw at you. So I made aliyah, now that we know what that means. And I started in New York with a group of people on the flight with me who came from all sorts of other places, New York and Philadelphia. And then they asked where I'm from, and I said Arkansas, and they were like, okay. Right, okay. And at some point on the plane, we're all getting excited and not talking about where we're from, but where we're going. And so everyone's like, I'm going to Tel Aviv, and I'm going to Jerusalem, and I say, I'm going to Beersheba. And they stopped talking to me. They were just like, what is this person? We have no idea, because it wasn't the norm. And I think maybe I never really stuck with the norm, but I'm very proud that I did it. And this is Beersheba for me. This is my tribe. These are the people that are my community in a beautiful, beautiful city in the center of the Negev desert that we'll talk a little bit about too. Also too with Beersheba, there's a strong tie to Abraham and all of his teachings of opening his tent from all four sides and feeling like allowing in the stranger. And I think that it must be in the water or something in that city because everyone is just hospitable and welcoming. And I said, okay, this is my place. You can take the girl out of the south, but not the south out of the girl. Like I stayed in the south, also in Israel. But again, too, what really has punctuated my life there in Israel also here is this idea of community. So for me, community in the beginning here in Arkansas was around my Jewish community. And I think maybe you guys can understand that too. This is where you come for support, and there was some education thrown in maybe for your children. You create a sense of belonging, significance, meaning. Those are things very universal for community all over the world. And then I suddenly am in a country that's mostly Jewish, and so that's not how I can identify my community. I began to be in a community of other immigrants, of other English speakers, of students when I was a student, of other social workers, of karate practitioners. Yes, I will talk about karate later on, promise. And if I don't, you need to remind me. I promise it has a reason. It all ties in together. And that's something that naturally I think I found myself at Eretz-Ir, which is an organization that's trying to infuse that idea of community throughout, again, the periphery areas of Israel. So if you see, well, that's missing. Oh, it's missing some lines, but that's fine. So this is Israel in its entirety, if there were lines in the middle. But so the yellow part is the Negev desert, and the green part is the Galil. And those are considered the periphery areas of Israel. They're something like 80% of the land mass of the country and only have 30% of the people living there, which means that the majority of the people are living in this area, like Haifa, Tel Aviv, Jerusalem, which has lots of implications in it too. They have more resources, but they also have a lot more traffic, and housing is really hard to get by in those areas. But then, if we look at this area, we'll focus in on the Negev. For me, the Negev has so much opportunity. It's beautiful. It's so different than the green that you see outside of these windows. And I love it. So if you've never been to, come visit, please. I'll show you guys the good places to go. But for most Israelis, so I'm going to go back to, how the Americans were all like, oh, you're going to Beersheba? Israelis are even worse about it. They're like, What did you lose there? I don't understand why that is where you're going to go, of all places. And it's really, you can even see it in the statistics, how we're so far from the center of power, the center of economy, the center of innovation and everything, that the numbers even speak for itself. So if we look on here, our average salary in the periphery is 50% less than in the center of the country. 2 times as many students go to college in the center as opposed to the periphery areas. We've got 31% less public transportation. Guys, public transportation is the best thing ever. I hope that Northwest Arkansas will get it one day really well. But it's what connects us in this small country. And then in these periphery areas, we're already less connected to the center. And we even pay for it with our lives. And people in the periphery live 5 years less than those in the center of the country. So lots of issues, but again, I said I'm going to talk about hope, right? So I'm going to talk about Eretz-Ir and what we do, because I said we work with communities and we work in the periphery. And we love the idea of giving power to the people or power to the grassroots, because those are the people who know best what their communities need. And we found the 2 best ways over 20 years of working now, the 2 best ways to do that is through local communities and social entrepreneurs. Social entrepreneurs being kind of like double bottom line businesses, if that makes a little more sense, but it's businesses that are doing good as opposed to just making money. And we understand truly that change comes from the bottom up. It comes from the people. Again, we're on that theme, I think, right now of people and looking at the power of each individual person. So that's what we're striving to do. We work every year with 70 different communities that host 120 different initiatives that provide different services that the regular government or different services are not able to provide. So really identifying what we need and acting quickly to do it. That's really, really important. And now, together with that comes an idea of community resilience. And I'll talk very briefly in just a moment about October 7th. We won't go into it too much. But just knowing that communities that are strong in routine times are so strong and able to deal with crisis times. And so this is something, again, for the past 20 years that we've been instilling in these different communities throughout the periphery regions that are already weaker, but we're coming in and trying to infuse them with this sense of community resilience. It has aspects of organization, feeling connected, feeling engaged. I think I'm probably speaking to all of you with how you feel here, I hope. A culture of preparedness, too, being able to know who needs help and how we can help them as quickly as possible. Material assets, you have a gorgeous building. You have a gorgeous choir. You have lots of assets here that really help to strengthen your community together. And feeling connection to a place is also very, very important. And these are things that, again, that we've noticed. We've helped to instill that over the past through our social entrepreneurs and our communities. It's, again, hard not to talk about everything we do without October 7th, because it really all hit next to where we live. And it hit the communities that we support. I live in this blue place right here. And you can see the red dots are where all of the different massacres were. Again, I'm talking from the Israeli perspective. I'm not meant to talk about the Palestinian perspective, although my heart is aching also for what is going on for them. We're in terrible times right now. So just to tell you a little bit more, like, for example, that weekend was a weekend off. It was Simchat Torah. It's the holiday that we celebrate of the giving of Torah on Mount Sinai. Everyone's like the last moments of freedom before everyone goes back to work and back to school. This is one of our communities out of Beersheba that they took a vacation into the hills of Jerusalem just to be together, the last little moments of that vacation. And they found themselves like this, not much longer after, on the ground, taking care of covering their kids with their bodies and everything. And I bring this, it's heart-wrenching, it's hard to see, but I think that from now in my talk, you're going to see how, even though this is how this community ended up being on this particular day, how the strength of these communities that have been in existence for so long and take care of one another, how they're able to stand up and flourish and help the people around them. So let's talk about good stuff. This is a smattering of some of the incredible work that was done by our social entrepreneurs and our community members. I'll say personally, I was frozen solid. I'm normally a doer and I move. I was shaken to the core from October 7th on. And it took me slowly but surely seeing what these guys were doing to say, oh, hold on, you've got to get yourself out of it. They didn't miss a beat. October 8th, they're like, what do we do? How do we help? You have here this incredible organization that of young adults who, we're in a college town right now. College towns, people come and then leave. They're a community of young adults who said, I'm going to stay in Beersheba and not leave that college town. They've even built a coffee shop, and they do so much incredible things. And whenever the tragedy happened, they started to provide meals for all of the medical staff and for the families who were trying to locate their loved ones for weeks on end. You also had the Pride House in Beersheba, which helped us not only pulling together donations and getting people their material needs met because they had that ability, but they also provided on the 30-day mark after October 7th, we had a ceremony. So in Jewish tradition, you have grief is very metered out, and you have your Shiva, which is 7 days after a death, and that's the really hard grieving, and people come to visit you. But after 30 days, you also mark it again. And so we marked it as a community. And of course, they opened their doors to anyone and everyone, and we talked about what we were feeling and how scared we were and where we were going to go from here. We also had communities just taking in the evacuees. We have, still to this day, 100,000 displaced people inside Israel, and we have to take care of them because they're not in their homes and they don't have the things around them that they're supposed to have. I did promise to talk about karate again, right? So one of our social businesses, too, is Niji Dojo, which in its regular time, or in routine times, they teach kids on and off the autistic spectrum together karate. They also have a women's class. So we're a women's class with Bedouin women and Orthodox Jewish women and me, and and it's incredible. So what did she do too? She got together and she donated her equipment to the athletes who were displaced, because athletes who are professionally trained need to keep training. Everyone able to do what they can in order to make things a little easier in the times of crisis. And that is strong civil society. And that's what we stand for, is to make sure that the people on the ground have the tools and the ability to influence the places around them as effectively as possible. Now, just a little bit more storytelling, and then we'll wrap up. But this is another example of a beautiful community. I think you'll really connect to them. They're called Be'erot. It's an egalitarian and pluralistic community, Jewish community in Beersheba. I say Beersheba a lot. We're all over the place, but Beersheba is just, we happen to be the hub, and it's the place that I love so much. So hard not to talk about it. But as you can see, even here, there's a woman reading from the Torah, and Orthodox Judaism is the mainstream of Judaism in Israel, and reform is almost a bad word. And this is not Reform Judaism, but they get called reform all the time. This could be a whole other lecture we could have about that. So much to unpack there. But this is an incredible community that's bringing women to be part of the religious space as much as they can be, according to the halacha, the guidelines. And so you see this, they recently got their first Torah scroll, and they had a huge party to bring it in and read it and sing and dance in the midst of all of this craziness. That's them during routine. Now, during the crisis times and emergency times, they took over a bomb shelter, a public bomb shelter, and they said, take, for example, my friend who works side by side with me. She is a mother of 4. Her husband was immediately called up to reserve duty. She's by herself, tearing her hair out. There's no school, there's no work. Nothing's working for the first 2 or 3 weeks, nothing. All of our infrastructure is just not, internet's also not working, phones not working. It's a mess. They took over this bomb shelter. They put together 10 hours of activities every day for different age groups. They brought in artists and educators to give them jobs throughout that time as well. And they gave these parents peace of mind by allowing them to be in a place where they know their kids are safe and parents can breathe just a little bit too. And this is all together as well. The togetherness is a really, really important part of it, obviously. And what's incredible is this started on October 9th. Didn't take long. They got going because they saw the need on the ground and made it happen. Now, about 4 weeks later, the city came in and said, well, that's a great model. Could we learn about that and try to replicate it? But so this is, again, the power of civil society. They're able to move. They don't have to, the bureaucracy doesn't have to be oiled and moved. So this is just a beautiful piece of, I think, of just how incredible the strong community was before and how they were able to respond to the people, to taking care of the people around them as quickly as possible. Now, let's also get to one more. I'll give you that's an example of a community. This is an example of one of our social entrepreneurs called Social Delivery. And I love them too because they're also super sustainable and all that. So in routine times, they track down donations of tables and desks and monitors from different businesses that are going to just go to the landfill because they've done some sort of an upgrade, or clothes that have the wrong stitch in them. Again, we're like a fast fashion society, right? We just buy it, throw it away. But they take it, put it into a warehouse, organize it, and then ship it out to different organizations that need it. It could be orphanages, it could be nursing homes, it could be schools. We even got, like when we moved into a new office, we got all of our desks from them too, because that's how we do. We work together, and it's keeping all these things out of the landfill as well. So you've got that double bottom line there as well. They pivoted very quickly at the beginning of the war with Russia and Ukraine, whenever we had a huge influx of people coming from there as well, and we're able to help them to have a wardrobe and have furniture and just to take care of the people coming in that needed it so much. And they pivoted yet again very quickly in October. And so in the beginning, they were just literally putting together care packages of toiletries and clothes and all the essential basic needs that people who were displaced all over needed. Then, next step, they started furnishing the temporary schools, the evacuees were needing when they were at their hotels, because even to this day we still have people living in hotels. Their kids, can you imagine what do you do with your kids if they need to be in school? And this is all we've got. And now they're also looking forward into the rebuilding aspect, because at some point these people are going to go home to those kibbutzim on the border. Incredible people too, who were a lot of them focused on building peace, and may we continue to strive after peace in our daily lives. They're looking towards saving things up in order to furnish all of their new homes that will be built as well. And again, able to pivot quickly because they already had an incredible infrastructure. They'd already built those relationships and knew who to work with. These are the people who are changing the face of society, not just in Israel, but all over. It's the individuals who are doing good work. They're motivated to make things better for themselves and the people around them. And I'll just say like a summary, because I think it's really heartwarming. But over the first 3 months, we had our 70 communities that were able to. Not everyone was able to participate, but they put together 43 emergency initiatives, and they helped over 57,000 people. And so, just again, the power of let's get going. And these are the people that knocked me out of my freeze and reminded me that there is hope in the world, and that there are good people, and that I need to look for them, and I need to hold on to them, and then support them as much as I can. So I think with that, I'm going to wrap up my remarks, tell you toda rabba, which means thank you very much. I hope that you continue taking and fostering the community that you have, the beautiful community that you've built here, and remembering that that is such a source of not only just pride and inspiration, but it's also a source of support. And you've got each other, and that's incredible. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of that today, too.
thank you so much for coming and being with our community. It is a beloved community, and we are so, so grateful for your presence here. We are also happy to share that we have a beautiful relationship with the temple. And when they were building their building, they worshiped here. And so, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's sing. Let's show Megan our UU national anthem.
1, 2, 3 in your gray hymnal, or the words are on the screen, thanks to Tressa. Thank you, Tressa. For singing. You may be seated.
Please join me in extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan, for that powerful message that I think we can't get enough of around here. So we have some announcements on the screen, and they're also in the order of service. A few of them, after the service today, Web of Life is doing a rehearsal and setup. There's a board meeting on Tuesday, and the grounds crew is meeting every Thursday to beautify our grounds. So thank you to them and all of their hard work. We also have a few other groups meeting, the Women's Rowing North Discussion Group, Justice Team. There's a lot going on to help build community around here, and that's beautiful to see. And our May Day service is next Sunday, and we will be weaving the maypole, so we hope to see you there if you can make it, and there will be a potluck afterwards for anyone who is here and wants to attend that. A couple of other special announcements. Barry will need a ride home after the service today. If anyone is here, Barry is, okay, great, got that covered. Thank you so much. And then Janet has an announcement, if you want to come up, Janet.
Good morning. Gretchen Wilkes and I have petitions for 5 of the various initiatives we're trying to get on the ballot this fall. If you signed last week and you didn't get to sign the pink one, we now have those as well. So anyone who's interested will be in the foyer after the service, and we'll also have them available for Benton County residents as well.
Okay, so this is not something I prepared. This is coming straight from the heart. For closing words today, I wanted to share with you all, it's been the hardest 6 months of my life since October 7th and everything that's gone on since. The country that I love so much feels like it's falling to pieces, and the hopes of peace and building a stable area over there just seem to be slipping farther and farther away. I had a friend that told me, she said, when you travel, you're not going to realize like how much your soul needed it. And so by coming to Arkansas, where I'm from, Fayetteville, where I met incredible people like Natalie, where my brother and sister-in-law live, and just being around people who are so positive and who are so filled with love, I think each hug that I get and each person that comes and talks to me is a part of my healing that I'm going through after this terrible, terrible time. And I just want to thank you for that. And take it with you that, you know, the people that we meet, you don't know what they're going through. I know that's cliche, but, you know, your hug and your kindness are doing more than you realize. So thank you for helping me to heal the pain that I've been going through, and for being, I'm going to take you as an inspiration for the rest of my trip and beyond. So thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Go in peace. We'll see you next week.
And the choir will sing one more song, a peace song in Hebrew.